morning, everyone. Welcome to another morning devotion with Brother Mark, where we are walking together on our walk with Christ. Today is, February 1st, 2023. Well, this morning I want to talk to you about what 2 Corinthians 10:12 discusses. For we dare not make ourselves of the number or compare ourselves with some that commend themselves, but they measuring themselves by themselves and comparing themselves among themselves are not wise. You know, we're talking about our spiritual journeys and our spiritual journeys together, and I'm really talking about my spiritual journey and just kind of sharing that with you. And today I just want to talk to you about comparing ourselves against others. You know, as a pastor, sometimes it's easy for us to compare ourselves with other pastors, to what's going on in other churches. And maybe even in our own Christian lives, we might think about what someone else is experiencing and compare our Christian life with others. But in me dealing with that, a gentleman suggested to me that I read this book, The Letters of John Newton, just to get his sense of compassion towards others. And John Newton, of course, is the one that wrote Amazing Grace, a former slave trader. But he, in this letter to a Reverend Mr. Whitford, made this statement. But the misfortune both in churches and private Christians is that we are too prone rather to compare ourselves with others than to judge by the Scriptures. You know, we're so prone to do that, and we're so prone to say, well, my Christian life is not as good as someone else's, or why are they receiving this blessing and I'm not receiving this blessing, or, you know, as a church, why is that church growing and why are we not, or whatever the case might be. And that's very easy to do as a pastor, or, you know, this church is doing that, I need to do that. And very easy to compare churches and try to make sure that you implement the things that are necessary in your spiritual walk and in your church to do what God has called you to do. But Newton mentions in this, he says, let us endeavor to keep close to God, to be much in prayer, to watch carefully over our own hearts, and let the busy, warm spirits to make the best of their work. And you know, in our walk today, that would be good for us. Instead of comparing ourselves to others, endeavor yourself to keep close to God. Whatever is necessary for you to keep close to God, whether it be devotions, reading devotions like this, reading the Bible and prayer, and of course church attendance and all those things. Let's endeavor to keep close to God. To be much in prayer. Listen, we need to pray. I was listening to a podcast that just said, that Jesus said, he that asketh receiveth. And the thing about it is, if we don't ask, how are we going to receive? So we need to be much in prayer. To be careful to watch carefully over our own hearts. So keep your heart with all diligence, the scripture says. So we need to pay attention to what's going on in our hearts, whether it be anxieties or fears or longings or whatever we might be feeling in our heart. Maybe even pride might be welling up in our heart. We need to be careful and watch our hearts to make sure that our hearts are walking with Christ, and to leave the busy, warm spirits to make the best of their work. In other words, there are things that only the Spirit can do. And we just need to trust the Spirit to do what the Spirit does. We can't do it. We can't force it to happen. So let the Spirit do the Spirit's work and leave it at that. And we can know at the end of the day that when we've given ourselves to God and lived our lives from Him, and we have tried to bring Him glory with our lives, that He will be pleased with us and He will make our efforts successful. So I was reading in another place today, just talking about Spurgeon, made a quote that, you know, if we give our entire lives in our ministry and only see one soul saved, that one soul saved is worth all of our efforts, because the soul is precious and it is cannot be valued. And so all of the work for one soul, we have done a great work. So just be encouraged today in your walk. Don't compare yourselves with others. Seek after God with your whole heart. And I think you'll find a blessing in your spiritual walk. Well, I hope this is an encouragement to you. And until the next time, this is Brother Mark signing off.